Talk Radio, you're in to all things music.
Welcome to Jackie's Groove. Come journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
Hey everybody, happy Friday, man. It's Jackie Bertoni, Jackie's Groove, brought to you by Talk Radio Network. You're into all things music. I've been looking forward to this, man. I had the opportunity last year to sit in a half moon at the Thornton Bay Winery, here in Temecula, California, when Michael McDonald graced the stage, and I thought it was apropos to go ahead and talk to the band, talk to his amazing consortium of musicians that he has in his band. And the gentleman I'm going to be speaking to is the oldest member of the band. I don't mean in age. I'm talking about in the longevity with Mike, actually going on close to 30 years. And the person I'm talking to right now is a fellow Italian. And not only that, but an amazing musician, guitarist, singer-songwriter, an all-around great guy. So with that said, I want everybody to welcome with open arms and open ears to Jackie's Groove, Mr. Bernie Chiaravalle. Bernie, welcome to the show, my brother.
Thanks, Jackie. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, man, I'm glad you guys you took the opportunity to accept the invitation before you guys head out on this next leg of the tour, and we're going to talk about that. But we want to talk about first, we want to get to know Bernie more, and then just of Michael's right hand. So with that said, Bernie, share with the listening audience worldwide, where were you born and where were you raised?
I was born in Southern California, actually, at a naval base called Port Hueneme, near Oxnard, California. And my mom and dad migrated up to Northern California, up to the Bay Area, Marin County specifically. And that's where I basically grew up. It was a great place to grow up, in a place called San Rafael. And started playing in bands when I was about 11 or 12 after seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and lived in Marin really till I was about 29, 30 years old before I migrated to Los Angeles. But yeah, I grew up in Northern California, and still where my heart is. I go there a couple times a year, and a lot of my family's still there, and love it out there.
Bernie, let me ask you a question. We know you as a guitar player and such, but was guitar the first instrument that landed in your hands and on your fingers?
Actually, piano was. When I think I was 9 years old, my parents noticed that I took an interest in, they had a piano. And my mom sort of played. She took lessons when she was younger. My dad didn't play at all, but I kind of doodled on the piano, and they noticed that I was taking an interest in it. So they had, our neighbor happened to be a piano teacher, and he gave me lessons. And I stopped reading the music. I would memorize the pieces, and it really irritated the teacher. He said, this kid needs to play by ear. I can't handle it. And so, yeah, I started on piano, but not really ambitiously. It was, like I said, when I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, I went, I really first wanted to be a drummer. I didn't have a guitar, and I really loved the drums, and I still kind of play to this day. Not that great. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't use great as a term how I play drums. But my parents wouldn't buy me drums. I don't blame them. And so I said, well, how about a guitar? And so they got me a guitar, and that's where it started.
Bernie, let me ask you this question. Brothers and sisters in your family?
Two brothers, two younger brothers, my brother Bill and Brad, both great guys.
Musicians?
No, not by profession. Brad, my youngest brother, is actually a craftsman, amazing craftsman, and he but he plays guitar pretty damn good. He takes lessons and really has a great passion for music. And my other brother, Bill, is an amazing graphic designer, has his own firm. He plays a little bit, but no, neither of them are musicians by trade. That's for sure.
You know, and I want to ask this question also too, just from the taste of music. I know your music. I've known it for years, and you and I actually had, I should say, I had the pleasure to record with you on a dear friend of mine's, Henry Capone's album called "Same World," in which Mike was co-producer on that album, and that was you when in your beginning stages of working with Mike, which is that's how far back you and I go back to actually 1990, and you were actually I think with Mike even prior to that, the fact even before Dylan came into this world. And I mentioned Dylan because. Go ahead.
Well, it's funny because when I first met Mike and Amy, Amy was pregnant with Dylan,
right?
And so I did meet them before Dylan was born. Yes.
Yeah, and I say that because we have an amazing series called Emerging Mondays here on Jackie's Groove, and it's all about the young upstarts that are making some inruns in the industry. And I had Dylan on, and we had a great time. We chopped it up. We talked about his info styles. I mean, his young age and his wonderful ADD or ADHD that he was going through. His mother, Amy, calls him a little chimpanzee on crack. And then to find out years later, that he has got his own thing with Dylan McDonald and the Avians, and he's also his father's. He works for the crew, and I think it's pretty humbling.
Oh, yeah.
And top it off, Bernie. But the funny thing about it, his ratings, radio-wise, were higher than Mike's. And it just goes to show that the millennials out there are listening heavily to this new series and such. And so going back to the yesteryears when you and I recorded, and I think that was at Studio 501 or whatever it was in Westlake. But with that situation, and when you were just starting with Mike, tell the listeners out there, if you would, how did that gig come to you? And tell us what you were feeling and what you were thinking when that phone call came. Share with us.
Let me first say that that was a great session. I remember that, and I also listened to your show with Dylan, and it was great.
Oh, cool.
I loved it. And let me just say, I'm a big fan of Dylan's. I'm just so proud of him. The music he's making and the passion, and what a humble guy he is. I love Dylan. He's certainly family to me. But anyway, I met Mike years and years ago, a little over 30 years ago, through David Pack from Ambrosia.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to make this. I'll try to make a short story, but I met David. I met David at a gig I was doing with the band I was in called Page One. It was an original act we had. It was a 4-piece band, woman bass player, and John Elefante, who used to sing with Kansas and is a great singer-songwriter, was a friend of David's. He spotted us in a club we were playing in Newport Beach, and David Pack happened to be looking. Gosh,
that's my stomping grounds.
I don't remember the club.
Okay,
it could have been. It could have been a Charlie Brown's or something. I don't remember. But anyway. David Pack happened to be looking for a woman bass player for a video that he was doing. He just wanted a woman bass player. Mm-hmm. And John Elefante happened to see us and told David, and exchanged phone numbers. Next thing you know, our bass player, Flavia, the bass player, got a call, and she did the video. It was for David's video at the time from White Nights, the movie he did some songs for with Gregory Hines and anyway, so Flavia got the video. She was on MTV and all this stuff, and David was real grateful, and he said, "Look, if I can ever do anything for you, let me know." And she said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I'm in this band, and my friend Bernie writes songs." And so I was introduced to David, and David and I took a liking to each other immediately. And David had me out in Sunland, and he liked my writing so much that he said, "You deserve to be recording on a better machine." So he gave me, right then and there, an 8-track TAC.
Really?
Reel to reel. Yeah, just said, "You need to record, but you need better representation of your song." So he gave it to me. and I barely knew this guy. So we hit it off, and I mean, I'll never be able to thank him enough for that. I mean, it was really a special thing for me. So I went home and recorded my butt off on it, of course. And he also happened to be playing with Michael at the time. He was playing guitar for Michael, and he was going to be leaving the band, and Michael was looking for a new guitar player. And David suggested me, and I'll never forget it. I went out to Mike's place in Sunland, and I played with just Michael and Chuck Sabatino, Scott Plunkett, and myself, no drummer. And we just played in the control room of David's studio. And I had learned the songs ahead of time. I studied really hard, and we got in there, and he goes, "Can you sing these parts?" And they were like super high stratosphere parts for like Real Love and Who Believes. And I was not quite prepared for that. But I tried them, and I did them, and I knew the guitar parts and I knew the vocals, but I struggled a little bit with the really high parts because I wasn't used to singing that high. And I was worried that I wasn't going to get it because of that. But next thing I know, next day, Mike gives me a call and said, "We'd like you to join." And I couldn't believe it. It was the break of a lifetime. And I said, "Man, I'll try better on those high parts." He goes, "Oh, you did fine, man. You'll get it more as we go along." And he was right. I actually, once I started playing with the band, we had one rehearsal when we first did the first gig. That was it. And we went right to work. And
it's funny that you said about, how we're all critical about our own performances, our own music. And I talked to Mike a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about the show that you guys did for a good friend of mine, Joe Thomas, and PBS for Soundstage. And Joe and I go back to 1994, and Mike said to me, he goes, "Did you talk to Joe yet?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Did he?" And he said, "When you talk to him, tell him I apologize because my voice really, really sucked." And I said, "Mike, how could that possibly be?" He says, "No, you have no idea. My voice was horrible." I told Joe that, and he said, "I don't know what Michael, what he's drinking, but his voice was on, was on point as always. But for whatever reason, Mike was being very critical of that performance. He said he's just tired and so on and so forth. I want to go back. And so when you got the gig, as they say, the quintessential line, the rest is history with that itself. But, I know Mike, not as anywhere near as you, but people who meet Mike for the first time, Michael McDonald, they are blown away by how humble this cat is, how grounded he is. And the same goes with Amy Holland McDonald and so on. I mean, they've been family to me for all the years we've been through the highs and lows, and I'm always thankful for that situation with him. When you find yourself, as you and I are getting long in the tooth, and God knows Michael's older than us, do you find, because when we did the thing when you guys played last year at Newport Beach at the Jazz Festival, Newport Beach Festival, I had talked to Mike, and I said, "Mike, do you still love playing music?" He goes, "God, I love music." He goes, "I just hate traveling." And he goes, "In fact, if I had my druthers, I'd sit backstage right now and I'd sit there and eat that bowl of Snickers with you." But as soon as he walked out on stage and that first finger hit on that keyboard, as my friend Joanna says, when Michael sings, he sings with every part of his body. Does he still to this day knock you out when you're to his left? And when you're looking over at Mike himself, does it still blow you out of the water that you are still playing with Michael McDonald?
Of course. I mean, when you do it so much, I have a tendency to maybe take it for granted sometimes how great a gig I have. But yes, I do have to pinch myself sometimes, and because he probably is the greatest singer on earth. I can't think of many singers that I love as much as Michael, and I say that totally honestly. I mean, I'm a big Beatles fan. Anybody that knows me knows that I love the Beatles, and I'm still a big Paul McCartney fan. And I go see him, and I love Paul and his music, but his voice is just not what it used to be. I mean, let's face it. I mean, but Michael is one of those people who I think has actually gotten to be a better singer.
Absolutely.
We're still doing most of the stuff. I'd say 95% of the music in the original keys, from his original records and from the Doobie records. We've lowered a couple things. Thank God.
And also a couple of the videos I've seen recently, I don't know if something that you've posted through, Facebook Live, but seeing Mike up on guitar, it just kind of blows me out of the water. Is he playing a lot more guitar in this last tour, or is that just the videos that you guys put up?
No, he's playing guitar in about 3 songs. He plays in Hail Mary, Half Truth and Beautiful Child, the song I co-wrote with him. And he's playing pretty damn good. He gets better and better. He started out as a guitar player, I think. I think he originally played banjo and guitar, and, you know, he migrated into keyboard, so he didn't play a lot. But he's always played guitar, and he plays a lot of ukulele. He's actually really good on ukulele. He knows a lot of advanced chords and voicings. He's really good on it. And for this album, you know, his Wide Open, he wrote a lot of those songs on guitar, which is why there's a lot more guitar-based music on that record. But yeah, it's great for me. I mean, I love having a rhythm guitar player to play against. It's been really fun. I love it, and he looks really natural on it. You know? Yeah,
man. And I want to give a throw out to the audience worldwide too. That's Michael McDonald's new album called Wide Open. It was released actually on September the 15th, and that can be purchased anywhere music is sold. I hate to use the word anywhere music is sold. I would love to say that, you know, at Tower Records or Amoeba, you know, music and so on. Maybe that will come back. But for right now, do us a favor, man. Go out and go to michaelmcdonald.com or go to the store and pick that album up. But you know what? I'm done talking about Mike. I want to talk about Bernie. I want to talk about your music because I am a fan of your music. In fact, last year when I did the interview with the band over at Thornton, you had just come out with your release, One Bright Moment. And I'm kind of proud, man, and I'm honored actually to talk to you on this situation because your new album, which is called Make Some Sense of This, is actually, you know, it's new on the market also. And so when we come back on the second set, I want to talk about, you know, it's not just the two albums. You've got many albums below you, and I wanted to find out where your motivation comes from. You know, how each album differs to a certain level, and where you and what got you to change up on some of the tunes versus what you played on the last album, and so on and so forth. And of course, you're not going to be able to walk away from this. You still are part of that. You got the DNA of Michael McDonald in you, and that's something I think everybody wants, and I want to talk back on that also. So put your thinking cap on, brother. When we come back on the second segment of this amazing interview with Bernie Chiaravalle, we're going to talk more about his career, his solo career, and what it takes to be in Bernie's company in the studio, and how it differs from live playing versus the studio itself. So with that said, guys, don't go anywhere. This is Jackie Bertoni. You're tuned in to Jackie's Groove, brought to you by Intertalk Radio Network. You're into all things music. When we get back with Bernie Chiaravalle, we're going to pick it up. We're going to talk about more situations and kind of take you behind the velvet rope and walk in his shoes for another couple segments. So with that said, guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a short break. Again, with Bernie Chiaravalle. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
The Moyer Entertainment Group, in conjunction with Daddario, Radio Airplay, and Looploft, is keeping music in our local schools and presenting local talent to the world through the Temecula Valley Music Awards. Submissions for entry into the TVMA 2017 season are now open in all genres, including a youth category for artists under 18 for the October 7th Star-Studded Awards Show, where 100% of the proceeds go towards supporting local music education in the Temecula Valley. Details, tvmawards.org.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on InterTalkRadio.com.
Todd Zuckerman from the rock band Styx, and you're listening to my pal Jackie Bertoni on Jackie's Groove. Groove on, motherfuckers.
Welcome to Jackie's Groove. Come journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
To see what's right before our eyes.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Jackie's Groove. This is Jackie Bertoni, and the network is Intertalk Radio. You're into all things music. That song, we're going to get more into that, is with and by my guest today, amazing guitarist, singer-songwriter, Bernie Chiaravalle. Bernie, welcome back, brother. Hey, talk to me about that song. Give me the genesis of that tune, please.
Ever-Changing World. I actually started that probably in the mid-'90s. It's very inspired by Mike's style of writing, I think, probably more so than anything I've written. And I wrote it on keyboard. I wrote it back in the 90s and kind of just put it away and just sort of forgot about it. And then when I was working on a new album earlier this year, I kind of came across the track again. And I, like probably a lot of people, were pretty affected by our last election cycle. And without getting political, I was inspired to write a lot of songs. And that one was one of those songs where I went back and wrote the lyric for it that I had never really written completely. And just about how the world is changing so drastically and how you kind of have to cling on for dear life to sort of survive through all this and keep your sanity through it all. That's what that song is about, really. Just sort of, holding on for the times.
Yeah, Bernie, I'm like you. I don't want to get political, even though I would spend, 5 hours on the asshole that represents our country. Did I say asshole? Yeah, I did. And, I'm not a fan, and I don't know of anybody, our close friends that are fans, but that's another story on Oprah. So with that said, let's get back to reality. And as harsh as it may be, let's talk about your motivation itself. Like I said before, we all know great songs are written through, tragedy, through angst, through love, through hate, and so on and so forth. What motivates Bernie Chiaravalle to walk in the studio? And also want to know, as a prolific songwriter, when you are sleeping in bed and you guys are having pillow talk, or your mind is just, when you're on the road, on the bus, as Mike says, the bed that travels 60 miles an hour, do you keep a voice recorder, a memo, a pad of paper that you come to light, something's on your mind? If you don't write it down, is it with you in the morning, or do you take action at that time?
I don't do that a whole lot. When I'm working on something, when I have an idea, let's say I have an idea in the daytime that I usually come up with, I do go to bed thinking about it. And I a lot of times write verses while I'm laying in bed. It's like I'm trying to work the equation out. So if I don't get up and write it down or speak into a voice, like into my phone, I will forget it. So I do that. I do that quite often that way. When I'm on the road, I have to be honest, I don't write a whole lot. You're kind of trying to get rest whenever you can. I mean, those bus rides, but the bus rides really take a lot out of you. And a lot of times you're leaving at, 11, 12 midnight, and you're driving for at least 5-6 hours. And a lot of times you're getting up, when you reach the next city, you're getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning. You got to go back to bed. And then you sleep until you can sleep, because you have to, then you get up, get ready, showered, get something to eat, go to sound check, and do it all over again. So I don't write a whole lot on the road. I'll be honest about that.
And I've said this over and over, Bernie, you and I being in the same shoes, on the road those years, people don't understand something. And let me be redundant. There's nothing glamorous about what Bernie and I do. The glamour starts when the lights go up, and that's when it goes itself. I mean, and like he said, it is. I took my wife out actually on a tour back in the 90s when we celebrated and with Michael and with Third World and Tower Power Horns. Took Caprice through the Hawaiian Islands, and when we got done, we had a week in Hawaii, and she said, "I will never doubt you when you say that you're exhausted when you get home." Because there is no place like home. And it's with that said, your home life now. Are you still in Nashville area?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I've been here almost 20 years now.
Yeah, Mike and Amy made their pilgrimage back to California. Is there any plans for you, the Chiavarelles, to come back to the West Coast? Or are you grounded there?
Not in the immediate future. I mean, our real home, our real hearts, like I said before, are in Northern California. But we've made a life here. We raised both our kids here, and they're staying here. They're both in college right now, and family's here right now. Maybe someday, but it's not in the immediate future. No, Nashville's our home for now. It really is. We like it.
And that, you brought up the babies itself. They'll always be your babies, regardless of the fact they're in college. But I'm always intrigued by this question, and I want to throw it to your situation. Them growing up, they know Daddy wasn't a 9-to-5 person. He was different than other dads out there. At what age do the kids actually get what Dad did for a living? Does for a living?
I remember taking them to concerts. When I played with Mike, when they were, old enough to sit through it, and they were pretty bored. I don't know, maybe 7, 8, 9 years old each. I think they started to. I mean, they always knew I played music, and
right.
But I think they actually started to appreciate it. Probably 8 or 9 years old when they. I remember it was funny. We were watching the Soundstage video that's about to come out, and they have a bonus feature on there, and it's from the Motown one we did in Nashville back in 2004. And both my kids are in the audience. You could pick them out. And
how cool is that?
And that was right around the age I think they sort of went, "Oh, Dad plays music in front of people and good music." And they've known Mike all their life. I mean,
right.
Mike come over to my house and we write, and he's Uncle Mike. Mike used to tease Rachel with some doll that she used to have, and he used to have a voice for it, like "Mama,"
and it's funny that you bring the fact about kid-wise, because you said just a little while ago on the break that you listened to the interview I had with Dylan McDonald on Emerging Mondays. And Dylan had said the fact that, I asked that same question. He says, but, the knock at the door, to him, he answered the door to Uncle David, who ended up later in life being David Crosby, and that, that's a kind of cool thing when you grow up with that. And so with that itself, and with that said, today, and I'm going to throw back to the kids itself, have they got a chance to meet their musical idols because of Dad and because of Mike?
Yeah, maybe a few. Like my daughter, because of a friend of mine, a hookup, she got to meet Nick Jonas at a concert.
Very cool.
And that was a thrill of a lifetime for her. And and to this day, if Justin Timberlake's playing somewhere, or my daughter will hit me up for the connection. Unfortunately, I don't have an in to Justin, but
but
they've
isn't that
met.
Funny though?
They got to hang with Jeff Bridges some years back, which was pretty cool. I don't think they realized who he was at the time, but later on they went, "Whoa, isn't that the guy that hung out with us and played with us backstage?"
Yeah. One of the greatest actors itself. In fact, Mike and Jeff had a record label. I don't know if they still have that label, if that's done with. But I just watched that thing that was a tribute, for the Gathering of Friends with Michael at the Universal Amphitheater, going all the way back to yesteryear. And actually, Jeff was the MC, if you will. But let's get back to you for one quick second. Let's talk about One Bright Moment and make some sense of it. Two of my favorite albums, like I said to you on the break, kind of OD'd right now on Make Some Sense of It. I see a big difference between those two recordings. Do you feel the same thing? What's the difference between, and is there a favorite of those two releases?
Yeah, I do feel the same as you. I love One Bright Moment. I had a fun time doing the record, and I really like it. On the other hand, Make Some Sense of This, to me, was an inspired work. I really wrote most of those songs all in a concise amount of time. I mean, within about 4 months, I had the whole record pretty much recorded. It was more of a concept record than I've ever done before. A lot of the stuff deal with kind of the feelings that I'm having with our country and our emotions in that are going on in the country. And I even think that sonically and production wise, I think I did a better job than I've done. And I play everything on the record and do all the parts. And I felt like I did that better than I've ever done.
I agree.
I'm always trying to get it. I'm always trying to get it right. You know, I always hear things that I would do better, but I'm proud of that record. I feel like I pleased myself on that one. Not saying I can't do better, and I will do better, but I do feel special about that record. I do. Thanks for noticing that.
Oh no, man! I just listened to it because and again, this is a correlation. Correct me if I'm wrong. Just some of the vibe on that, because one of my favorite albums, going to go back to Mike, was Blue Obsession. One of my favorite albums of all of his albums, and I want to go back because I'm looking at a message, a text from a friend right now. He asked me this. Let me scroll back up here because he knows this is a pre-record. His question to you is, can you please ask Bernie, when he is in the studio, is he using the same guitars in the studio that he is live? And if he is, what is his favorite axe to strap on his back?
Whew, that's a good question. The guitars with me, I have favorite ones at different times. On that record, on Blue Obsession at the time, I was using a Stratocaster and a Gibson Nighthawk. Those were my two main guitars.
Really? And
yes, I did use both of those guitars on that record, and I was using both those guitars live at the time. Yes, but yeah, guitars change with me. These days, I'm playing a Dr. Mojo, which I really love, built by a guy, Bobby Clark, here in Nashville, and been playing my Gibsons. My Gibson SGs are kind of my favorites. As I get older, they're lighter. They're not such a strain on my back, and they just the range of the neck. You just have so much room to get where you need to go. And and lately I bought a Gretsch. I finally bought myself a nice Gretsch, and boy, I've been loving that thing. It's with a big speed vibrato bar on it and everything. I'm having a gas with that thing. But yeah,
let me ask you a question. Personally speaking, now I know you, and I know you as a sweet man. Every time you're very cordial when we hang out, and so on and so forth. But I have to ask this question because we all have two sides of us. When you're in the studio, and please be honest with me, as easygoing as you are, and you make everything you do look so easy, but are you tough to work with in the studio? Are you a perfectionist? Do you give, and again, you're saying that you recorded and played mostly everything for you, but when you're producing artists, how easygoing is Bernie Chiaravalle? Are you easygoing, or can you be the quintessential producer asshole?
Good question. No, I don't think I'm an asshole. I mean, I think that I think I'm a good producer. I did Amy's album, Journey to the Miracle River. Well, I didn't produce that one. I just wrote a couple songs on Light of My Path. But Journey to Miracle River, I was the producer on that one, and I think you could. It'd be probably better to ask someone else, but I think Amy would say that I'm pretty easy to work with. I don't think I'm an ass. I think any good producer knows how to take control of a project without being domineering and being an asshole. I think that a good producer takes control and has a vision and follows through with it, but at the same time, letting the artist have an opinion and throw their ideas in it. Well, you don't want to like discount the artist because they're the ones that's the music, that's the creation. But a producer enhances it. And with Amy's album, I was lucky enough to write almost all the songs with her on that record. So I had a lot invested in the songs as far as writing them as well. So I think it was good that I could produce and write, and I think we made a great record. I'm still so proud of that record, and I think Amy feels the same way. But no, I think I'm pretty easy to work with. I mean, people that do work with me, that come to me to produce as a producer's chair, I'm pretty easy to work with. If I'm working for somebody else, like say if I go in the studio and somebody else is producing, Michael's producing, right, it's a different story. I have to follow their lead. But Mike's good at suggesting parts, but also being open to what you have to offer as well. To me, that's a good producer. That's what a good producer is. So, I think I'm pretty easy to get along with. I think, I think I am. I think that's part of being in a band and playing with musicians. We have to get along. You know, you really do.
You know, and I also, real quick too, as we're coming out of this last minute, you see how fast the time goes. But I want to say a hello to your bandmates, and that let's start with Dan on drums, Dan Edom. Let's talk about Jacob on bass. Let's talk about Mr. Professor Pat Coyle on keyboards. Let's talk about Mark Dunnett on saxophone. Let's talk about my beautiful Dre on vocals, and also Amy on vocals. I always said to Amy, my God, you're sleeping with the man. You'd think the man would employ you. And then to find out when Amy called me, he says, guess who I'm going on the road with? And I'm loving it because I get to sleep with the man. He also gives me new clothes and so on and so forth. It's about damn time. And also, too, on keyboards, I said Michael McDonald, and on guitar, Mr. Bernie Chiaravalle. And Bernie, you mentioned someone earlier on the last segment, and I want to send the blessings above is a gentleman by the name of Chuck Sabatino, gone way too young. An amazing keyboard player and so on, but we can talk about that later. He's an amazing person. Yeah. He used to do When a Man Loves a Woman. It used to rip my heartstrings out. And once again, that band in heaven must be something else, man. And after losing Mr. Tom Petty, I don't get what's going on, man. So when we get back on...
Okay, go ahead.
No, let's say when we get back on the third segment, it's going to be all about Bernie. I want you to put together all of your URLs. I also want you to talk about all of the people who sponsor you. Give them a shout out also, because if it wasn't for them, who bring out the light of us and make it more affordable in the industry, if you would. So with that said, guys, don't go anywhere. This is Jackie Bertoni, Jackie's Groove, brought to you by Talk Radio Network. You're into all things music. Mr. Bernie Chiaravalle. We'll be back on the next segment. Having a great time, guys. I hope you're having a great time too. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element. Affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on intertalkradio.com.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, this is Michael McDonald, and you're listening to my good buddy Jackie Bertoni on Jackie's Groove.
Welcome to Jackie's Groove. Come journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
Welcome back to the last segment of Jackie's Groove. This is Jackie Bertoni, and it's brought to you by Intertalk Radio Network. If you guys can't listen to Jackie's Groove live, do yourselves a favor, do us a favor, go on to iTunes or go on to Google and download our easy-to-use and easy-to-navigate application, and it's free. 2 words. Intertalk is the first word. Second is radio. You can take Jackie's Groove and the plethora of shows on our network on the road with you when you can't listen to us live. But we are live right now talking to Mr. Bernie Chiaravalle. Bernie, welcome back in the last segment. I got to ask you a question on that song. I'm going to say something here, and I mean this as a compliment, but Paul McCartney much?
Well, yeah, I mean, Paul's definitely one of my main inspirations for songwriting. I mean, I feel like I'd learned the basis of writing from him. Yeah, I always thought that was more of a Lennon kind of vibe, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely Beatle vibe. There's no doubt about that. I'm not ashamed.
You know, it's funny when you mentioned earlier about the fact about your inspiration came from the Beatles. I can tell you right now, Bernie, 95% of everybody that I've interviewed on the Yo Cats, everybody reverts back to that day with the Beatles. You know, and I don't know if I'm a little bit different, man, because when I saw that, I remember my mom. We were all around the TV, if you will, the console that was half TV, half stereo. I'm sure you remember that thing, and we sat there and watched it all. And, you know, and the manic faces of all the girls in the crowd and so on. Forgive me for being honest, man, but I never really got the Beatles as a whole. But as individuals, I love them. I don't know if that makes any sense. And then forgive me for people out there. I mean, you know, I'm a Beach Boy person. That's where, you know, my legacy comes from. And if you're talking about the 2 most prolific bands in music history, then you're talking both the Beatles and the Beach Boys, you know. And so everybody's got
the Beach Boys too.
Everybody's got their own vibe, but I'm going to ask you an unfair question right now, my friend. And I like to do this, especially with guys who are, you know, the creme de la creme. And yes, I am blowing smoke up your ass because I do love the way you play and I love the way you sing. But with that said, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to ask you a question, and please answer it honestly. I'm going to ask you who Bernie really, really, really loves in the way of instruments. And I want to ask right up front, and to be non-biased, but who is one of your favorite guitar players out there and why?
Great question. Right now, Steve Lukather. I mean, he's like,
absolutely.
To me, he's just amazing to me because he's not only a great technical player, but he's a great writer. I've always admired guitar players that write, and they play with melodic sense and they play for the song. And Steve's one of those people. As Toto is one of my favorite American bands. Gosh, there's a lot of guitar players I really admire. I always really liked Steve Stills from Crosby, Stills and Buffalo Springfield. I've always thought he was an amazing guitar player. Jimi Hendrix, I mean, was a big influence to me. One of the greatest guitar players. I love Robin Ford. Got Steve Morse from the Dixie Dregs.
Right.
Eric Clapton. God, there's just so many great guitar players.
Too many.
Couldn't possibly name them all, but those are people that really, really inspired me. George Harrison of the Beatles again.
Yeah.
You know, his melodic sense of, you know, technically he wasn't the greatest, maybe, but
right.
Song-wise and part-wise and melodic-wise, he was one of the greatest. Anyway, those are some of my favorites.
Cool. And we're real proud because I've got Luke coming on in November because Luke's got a new book coming out. Spoiler alert out there, guys, if you didn't know that. And so we're going to be doing that. Also have another gentleman coming on called Steve Vai, another guy that's learning how to play guitar. And that was a recommendation from his good friend Al DiMiola, who I've had on the show 3 times. So, I'm pretty blessed when it comes to the Yo Cats. And now I can add Bernie Chiaravalle on this also. Okay, so the next situation, drummers. And you can say Dan. That's okay. And
of course, drummers, Dan, of course. I mean, I've been playing with Dan now steadily for 5 years with Michael, and he is just the most consistent, creative, groove, everything. He is the consummate pro. I mean, the guy never falters. I mean, he's just, and I've had the pleasure of having him play in a couple of things on a couple of records ago, and Dan is right up there to me at the top. Shannon Forrest is another one that I really admire and have been really fortunate to play with a lot, and worked with him a lot on Amy's record. Shannon helped me engineer that album and played all the drums and percussion on it.
Beautiful.
And of course, Ringo. I mean, Ringo to me is like, he started it all. You know, he started that song sensibility style of drumming to me. I mean, really the first rock drummer. I've been watching a Tom Petty documentary lately with Steve Ferrone playing drums. That guy's amazing.
Absolutely.
As well as Stan Lynch, who played with Tom Petty as well. There's lots of drummers, guys. Like George Pirelli, who I used to play with in Mike's band years ago, is one of my favorites.
The greatest facial expressions of any drummer. The greatest facial expressions of any drummer. I mean, for those who know George, the man, his face moved in 30-second notes, and that so you knew he was grooving hard. And also too, just kind of want to round this. Yes, absolutely. Let's go back to and this fun. I'm going to finish it up real quick too. Let's go real quick on bass and real quick on keyboards.
Okay. Bass. Well, obviously, Jacob Lowry came into the band a couple of years ago. Now he's an amazing musician. He's an all-around musician. He plays everything, so he understands songs as well. So, his bass playing is impeccable. He's great. He's a great singer. Beautiful man. I mean, just spirit-wise, he's just one of the nicest guys on the planet. Another good friend of mine I really like is Lannis Morrison, who played bass on Half Truth, actually, on Wide Open. Lannis used to play in Mike's band, and he's a good friend of mine, and played with me on some of my solo gigs. Dear friend of mine. Other bass players, gosh, let me think here. Tommy Sims is another guy I played with that just blows my mind. He's amazing and a great singer and great writer as well, producer. Paul McCartney. Gosh, there's just so many that it's hard to name them all. There's so many inspiration out there. But those are some of my keyboards.
Yes.
Keyboard, of course, Michael and Pat Coyle.
Amazing.
He's probably the most amazing keyboard player I've ever heard, and got to play with. John Dedrick's another guy that I really admire that used to play with Mike. I've always really liked Elton John's playing. I think he's got a totally unique style. Joni Mitchell, God, I love the way she plays piano. Her voicings. David Crosby's son, Raymond, is an amazing. I can't remember his last name right now. Raymond.
James Raymond.
James Raymond. Sorry. I love the way he plays and the voicings he comes up with for David's songs and for the records.
Absolutely. Bernie, I'm going to jump in here real quick because there's another big fan of yours that's on the phone right now. He's also called the CEO of our network, and he's the one that said you got to get Bernie on. Because we had a good time. Because when I interviewed the band at the wineries last year, I wanted just to talk to the band, but this white-haired guy by the name of Michael McDonald came and commandeered the interview. And am I going to say no to him? Are you guys going to say no to him? No. I remember I'd asked the great question.
His name's on the marquee.
Yeah, exactly. I said to Mike, and this was the funniest responses. I said, when you guys are in the studio with Mike, how much of a thumb does he have down on you? And I remember he jumped in and said, he goes, my thumb is somewhere. and the band lost it. I lost it. So, you can figure out where that thumb is at. So, but with that said, I want to bring on right now, I want to have you say hi to Florentino Buenaventura. Florentino, say hi to Bernie. Bernie, say hi to Florentino, please.
Hey, Bernie. Good to run into you again, man.
Yes, and good to hear your voice, man. How you doing?
Good, brother. I'm just enjoying the show, and obviously I've enjoyed you folks for many years, Michael and the band being one of my all-time favorites. So this has been a very big treat for all of us here at Enter Talk Radio, and we appreciate you taking this time. I know it was trying to fit it in the schedules is always a challenge when you've got players like yourself who are moving and grooving all the time. So thanks very much.
Oh, thank you. It's my honor. Please, thanks for having me on. Anytime.
Well, awesome. And with all the things that you're doing and everything that's going on, let me kind of back up here a little bit. Enter Talk Radio is created, and I think we talked a little bit about this or mentioned this in when last time we met up, but we're about spotlighting the talents of this industry, and we're about sharing that with the industry. There's a lot of fan sites out there, and we definitely welcome fans, but we want the people in the industry to, kind of almost in a pay it forward situation. We spotlight these great guys that don't always get that marquee name on a concert billing or on a record, but definitely have as much talent and as, in our minds, as much influence on making that happen. So we created Enter Talk Radio to do that, and part of that is to give an avenues for people to really learn about you. So with that long-winded, introduction, tell us what your URLs are, what your social medias are, all that fun stuff. If they can reach you through smoke signals, it doesn't matter. Let us know how we can find out more about you.
I appreciate that. Thanks. I mean, the best way to find me is to go to my website, which is BernieChiaravalle.com. People might have trouble spelling that, but you can do a Google search and find me by putting in Bernie CH, and my name will come up. Or you can go to MichaelMcDonald.com, and I'm on his band page. And you can get to my website from Michael's website, and that's easy to find. If you go to my website, there's actually icons up in the upper right-hand corner, I believe. It will take you to my Facebook page, my Twitter page, my YouTube page, I think even my Apple iTunes page. You can get all those links from there. That's probably the best way to do it rather than me try to spell them all out right now. But I would just get to my website, BernieChiaravalle.com, and all those links are there.
Sounds good. In fact, what we'll do is after this show is aired and put up on our website, we'll make sure that we put all that fun stuff in the show page so that people can know that they can find you, and smoke signals optional. So,
absolutely.
Okay. Oh, that's great. I really appreciate that. It really helps us. It really does. Thank you.
You're welcome, brother. Well, hey, Jackie, man, I'm going to pass it back to you because I think you've got better questions than I do, man.
No worries. Thanks, Florentino. I appreciate it, brother.
Right. Thanks, bro.
Thank you.
Hey, Bernie, I know you're going to be out of town, man, because I wanted to invite you personally, but I know your schedule. On October the 14th, Jackie's Groove, we're in association with Newport Dunes and the Back Bay Bistro. We're doing this new Feast and Fusion startup. It's going to feature Cab. I'm sure people that you know. It's headed up by Bunny Burnell, Mitch Foreman, Virgil Donati, Kayleen Peoples, and Bunny Burnell. And it's going to be amazing. It's because Bunny is not only is he an award-winning bassist, he's also an award-winning French chef. So we're going to do a little bit of wine and pairing. And I wanted to invite you, but I'm inviting him, throwing it out there, and I threw it out to Mike and Amy and so on. But we'll do it again later on. I think I'm going to have, hopefully, if it goes successful, we get Henry Capono to come do it and bring some famous Hawaiian chefs. So with that said, that's October the 14th, guys. Feast and Fusion. Definitely check it out on Intertalk Radio's page, or go to TicketWeb for your tickets. Hey, Bernie, you know what? I'm really, really proud, and I'm blessed over the years to be endorsed by the largest drum companies, percussion companies, Vader, Sabian, LP, and companies such as Pitbull Audio and SIR and so on. But I want to go ahead and give you a chance and a quick shout out to who takes care of Bernie in the way of rig, wise, and gear. Want to go ahead and give a shout out to them?
Yeah, thank you. I've been really fortunate. I have to say Gibson Guitars, Peter Leinheiser out of Gibson, out in Los Angeles, has been amazing to me. He's really hooked me up with some really fine instruments. And Gibson is making great guitars these days, and I'm proud to play them, and I'm proud to be Peter's friend.
Beautiful.
Another one I'd like to thank is, again, I think I mentioned earlier, is Dr. Mojo Guitars, Bobby Clark out here in Nashville. He's a fine guitar player. I mean, he's really makes some custom. He made me a custom. I met him at a NAMM show, and he knew who I was and really wanted to make me a guitar, and made it to my specifications. And he puts a lot of love. He calls him Dr. Mojo for a reason. I mean, he really does put a lot of mojo into these guitars.
I love it.
And I'm proud to play that one. So, and then the other one I probably should thank is Andy Fuchs from Fuchs Audio. He makes fine amplifiers, and he hooked me up, over 10 years ago with an amp that I use all the time, and great stuff. I know I'm probably going to forget somebody, but those,
it's okay.
Those are the three.
I'm sorry, I'm jumping in there. Remind us, and we'll put it on the show page. We want to make sure everybody give the credit they deserve. And speaking of, you mentioned custom builders. Are you going to be at NAMM here in winter in January that you know of?
Not that I know of at this point, but it's possible. But not at I usually, being in Nashville, don't make it to the one out there. I usually go to the one here.
Right, the summer
in the summer. But that usually doesn't work out either. But I'd like to come out to the LA one. I haven't been there in a long time.
If you do, we're really connected with NAMM and the history of music with NAMM, and we'll give you more vibes on that. So if you're going to be around, let us know, because there's some great happenings that we're involved in. I really can't release any information right now until it's finalized. But we're a big voice for NAMM this year, and we'd love to have you around if at all possible. So with that said, the light is flashing, brother. I got to tell you, it's just not enough time to take your 30-plus year career and encapsulate it into let alone 2 hours, but 1 hour. So I want to extend that olive branch out to you. And every time there's a new project that you are involved in, please reach out to us. And we are all about promotion. We're all about the names below the marquee, the ones, the hired guns, if you will. And of course, we love the names above also, but I'm the below name also. And so we want to give credence and kudos to where it's due. So with that said, Bernie, thank you so much, my friend, for being part of this great thing, crazy thing called Jackie's Groove. I wish you all the best on the album sales. You guys do yourselves a favor and go on to iTunes and wherever music is sold and patronize this man. Buy some music. Don't steal it. And that's the best thing about it. And so, Bernie, with that said, Godspeed, my friend. Have a great tour. Please say hi to the band for me. And we'll talk real soon. So with everybody, say thank you to Mr. Bernie Chiaravalle. Bernie, I love you, brother. Thank you, man. And we'll talk soon. We'll see each other on the road or see each other in person. So with that said, I finish up all my broadcasts by saying 3 words. That's peace through music. Thanks, Bernie. Godspeed, brother.
Thank you, Jack.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be the music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.